The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, man. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Friday, August 1st today, you guys. It's the first of the month. And today is, oh, Jenny, you're going to love this. It's National Water Balloon Day.
Oh, this is the day that you thought I was going to love?
You don't love water balloons?
I mean,
water balloons.
I love water balloons.
What kind of water balloons we talking about here?
You know, whatever kind of water balloons you want to talk about, Jenny Beth.
The ones when your friend walks around the corner and you huck a big old water balloon right at their face as a surprise and it hits them right in the face.
Yeah, no, I don't love that at all. As the mother of a boy, I'm not a fan, man.
I think you're tripping.
Okay, keep going with the days, because there's one I do actually celebrate. And if you don't get it, I'm going to.
Well, look at you. Is that because you celebrate it, Jenny Beth?
So yeah, I'm celebrating it all the time. Absolutely.
Let me guess. It's Mahjong Day, International Mahjong Day.
No, it's not Mahjong Day.
Okay.
But cool.
What do you mean? Let me guess. You have the list.
Well, see, I'm trying to guess which day is the day that she's celebrating, because I think she does play Mahjong.
Is it Mahjong Day?
Yeah, it is.
Mahjong's a good game.
It's International Mahjong Day today, you guys.
Well, that's cute.
Oh, that's a fun game.
Let's see, what else is it today? You're gonna like this. You're gonna love this one, Dr. Mark. It's National Respect for Parents Day.
Oh, we all love that.
I have the most kids. I should be the one.
Every day is National Respect for Parents Day, isn't it?
Not yesterday for me. We're going to talk about it today, but hey.
Oh boy.
Fine. There's an important day today. I just joined, and I don't know if you've recognized it.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish the days first, Doctor. Let me finish the days first. Hold on a second. Let me finish the days. Let me go through my list, and then if you guys want to add anything, I'm all with it.
You know we do.
Okay, it's Minority Donor Awareness Day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. National Raspberry Cream Pie Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. Congressional Startup Day.
All right.
Jesse, it's National Girlfriends Day.
Whoa.
Jesse's not allowed to have girlfriends.
Girlfriends, bro. I don't have any.
I was just saying, Jesse, it's National Girlfriends Day.
That's my past life,
and here's the thing, and people mistake this day all the time, but if you look at the actual picture, it's multiple girls like happily holding hands. This is like, yeah, celebrate your girlfriends.
Mm-hmm,
yes, girlfriend.
I bet. All right, Jenny Beth, Dr. Mark, what do you have as far as the days? Because I'm willing to bet I did not hit either one of the two that you guys are talking about.
It's National Aperol Spritz Day.
Oh, what?
What? The hell is an Aperol
You have an Aperol
Spritz?
Spritz right now?
Aperol Spritz is Aperol, Prosecco, and a little bit of club soda. It's an Italian drink.
Starting the day off right.
Interesting. Sounds bubbly.
I love
totally against my dietary restrictions.
I'm a Negroni fan myself.
Oh boy. All right, Dr. Mark, what do we got? What today is it?
It's August 1st, right?
It is August 1st, yes, sir.
Today is my father-in-law's birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to your father-in-law, Dr. Mark.
He's 7 years old.
70?
And it's this guy's birthday. He would have been 83 years old
Damn.
He's 30 years gone, just about 30 years gone. It's Jerry Garcia's birthday.
Oh, it's
or as
Jerry
we call it,
Garcia's
Jerry Day.
birthday. Man, happy birthday, Jerry Garcia.
Happy birthday, Jerry.
Yes.
That's right.
Amazing.
The
Look
One
at
of my
band-
favorite Dead shows.
The band
today.
that brought Kind Bud across country and brought psychedelics everywhere. Yes, that traveling circus known as the Grateful Dead was responsible, I think, for the promotion of really good weed from Northern California. I
Look at
know,
that.
as a kid growing up in Northern New Jersey, all I can get was brown weed with lots of sticks and stems.
Lots of swag.
But when
huh?
I went to the Grateful Dead concert, I was able to get good NorCal Sensimilia. So
Mhm.
shout out to all the people who sold weed on Grateful Dead tour. Thank you very much. And there's lots of ag seed history on Grateful Dead tour, like the Chem Dog, right?
We're gonna talk about the dog.
I was gonna say, dude.
That
I
happened
was
at
like,
Deer
Chem
Creek
Dog and
91.
Sour Diesel, bro.
Grateful Dead show led to the birth of Chem Dog and ultimately Sour Diesel.
Mhm.
So spark up one for the fat man, Jerry Garcia. If it wasn't be for him, I probably wouldn't be alive. I listen to his music every day, and I feel enlightened by the fact that I was able to see the man in the building more than 200 times.
Oh wow.
So I feel very, very blessed. 1977 and 1995.
Mark, what's your favorite year of shows?
My favorite year of shows?
Yeah.
I think going back, I think 1981 was a great year. It was my senior year of high school. I saw a bunch of Grateful Dead shows that year, and Brent was really hitting full stride. 79 was a great year. 81 was a great year. 89 was a great year. I thought 85 and 84 were good years. Didn't like 90 after Brent died, but yeah. Anyway, happy birthday, Jerry. We miss
All
you.
right. Yes, happy birthday, Jerry Garcia. Yes, without a doubt. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, and we are kicking it off today with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, and is celebrating National Girlfriends Day all day today. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
With an Aperol Spritz, because it's also Aperol Spritz Day. And Jesse Barney, you better correct that. Your wife is your girlfriend too, or something's wrong. Got in trouble in the
I
comments.
didn't know this. I just got educated.
Yeah. See, I was trying to give her props, you know what I mean? And just,
You have to keep dating your wife or your marriage falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on
What do I know? I'm divorced. So
That's funny.
this is cool. And shout out to my Aperol Spritz, my Italian cocktail, because this story is out of Italy. A remarkable case out of Italy is raising new questions about the role of alternative therapies in treating aggressive brain cancer. A 36-year-old woman diagnosed with a glioblastoma back in 2016 underwent partial surgical removal of her tumor and began standard chemotherapy and radiation. But after just one cycle, she discontinued chemotherapy due to severe side effects. Instead, she turned to unconventional combination of treatments. Rectal ozone oxygen therapy, high-dose melatonin up to 2 grams per day, and daily medical cannabis products, including Bedrocan and Bedrolite. According to a study published in Report, follow-up MRI scans revealed that the remaining 2-centimeter tumor had disappeared by February of 2017. Subsequent imaging in 2021 and 2022 confirmed there has been no recurrence. Nearly 7 years later, the patient is still alive and symptom-free. Researchers caution this is a single case, not evidence of a cure, but they say the outcome is promising enough to warrant further investigation. Preclinical studies have already suggested cannabinoids like THC and CBD can have anti-tumor effects, while melatonin and ozone therapy may also support immune and anti-inflammatory responses. The authors stress more clinical trials are needed, but this case may offer new hope in the search for supportive therapies against glioblastoma. This is an awesome story. Obviously, they probably should look into this a bit more. I'm sure that you guys have a lot to say on this, but I think, hey, I know it's just one case, but this is amazing for that woman. Dr. T, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I've seen my share of miracles with cannabis, and to hear this one is not surprising. it's usually the case that they're trying more than one treatment therapy. So the medical establishment will point out that, there's confounding variables in this case study. But great news for the patient. Glioblastoma is a horrible condition, especially in the pediatric population. It tends to be the worst, with toddlers. So anyway, great news that this person is recovered.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's phenomenal news overall. Dr. Mark, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm actively involved in trying to come up with cannabinoid-based treatments to treat traumatic brain injury, including glioblastoma multiforme. We've shown that our hydrogenated cannabinoids and some of our chemically modified cannabinoids are more effective than the phytocannabinoids themselves. So we're continuing to pursue this because, again, I think Dr. T would probably agree that sometimes with GBM, it's such an aggressive cancer that often by the time you find out and you positively diagnose, it's often too late because basically it's just taking off in terms of growth in your brain. It's difficult to remove. I think about my son's karate instructor, who again was a picture of health. We were the same age. He ran 3 miles a day, and I smoked weed. He died of glioblastoma multiforme, and I am still here. So I wonder, Dr. T, if, again, a lifetime of consuming cannabis actually helps you prophylactically in the fatty organs in your body, including your brain, your pancreas, and your liver, because you've basically, saturated them with cannabinoids through your use of cannabinoids. Cannabinoids aren't readily discharged by the body. That's why it's so long to take a urinalysis test, because our bodies have evolved ways to hold on to these molecules, which tells you how beneficial they are. So
Wow.
they protect the fatty tissues of your body from free radical mediated damage that's often associated with injury and cancer and autoimmune disorders. So I think this just reinforces that, I know there was a couple presentations at the American Chemical Society meeting from groups over in Italy about treatment of glioblastoma multiforme with cannabinoids. I take it that this is the same study. So so I was very impressed with their data. And hopefully this will create, again, doctors like Dr. T who are going to think about whether or not patients who can come down with these illnesses are actually, whether cannabis and cannabinoids can be viable treatments for the treatment of those diseases.
Yeah, why not? I mean, we don't have the evidence, but, we're pretty sure it's safe. There is some evidence that it even helps if you're taking chemotherapy with the cannabinoids. So, it's not dangerous whether you elect to do treatment or not. As for a great long, cross-sectional study, a large cross-sectional study to see if people who've used cannabis in the past have less cancer than people who haven't used cannabis would be great to know, and it's possible to do right now if any of the powers that be want to fund that study.
Well, and anecdotal evidence would point that there is probably something like that, right, Dr. T?
Hard for me. A lot of times the cannabis using population did other things. So, maybe there was poor diet, maybe there was cigarette smoking. It'd be good to look at the data.
Overall though, this is good news. Like this is, regardless of the anecdotalness, you know what I mean? This is overall good news, because if one study is going to come out this way, there's a decent probability that more will follow, wouldn't it though, Dr. T?
Yeah, absolutely. Finding out like Dr. Mark's doing, which compounds really work the best is great. It's a vote for pharma in a way, and we can coexist. Plants and pharma can coexist. So Yeah. You go, Mark.
Interesting. Anyone else have any other final thoughts on this?
Nope, great story.
All right, great story. I'm with it. Look at it. We started off with a great story today, and we'll be right back after this message.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Oh, Mark, I sent in my CV to those guys.
We are back,
Okay.
you guys. We're back. We're back, you guys. We're back.
I'll follow up with you on email, John. Thank you.
Oh, and we're back regarding my previous email. Jason Beck,
Yes.
the highest head honcho, the highest Republican, and my best friend. What do you got, Jason?
Oh, man, I got something interesting today. You know, I almost had all medical stories today, and then this thing came up, and I just have to share this story to you guys. I feel like this is probably the most triggering story of the day, and you know, all of you guys are parents, and so I'm interested to see what you have to say, because I know that I have memories of from being in school, and I was just imagining what would happen if this happened to me at school, or to someone else at school, even for that matter. Decatur School District introduces a marijuana smell policy, you guys. That's right. Parents and former teachers are asking questions about how the Decatur Public School District will be enforcing a new policy this year. Any student who smells like marijuana will have to call home and ask for a change of clothes or be picked up to change before returning to class, the district announced in a news release. In a quote, they say, "They should not go to school smelling like that," Heather Bratcher, a Karen, a parent of a sixth grader in Decatur Public Schools, said. "If they're going in there smelling like marijuana, they're not going to, you know, it's a distraction for other kids and could be for their self as well," she says. Some former Decatur teachers say the odor has been a problem for decades, even at the elementary school level, when it was the parents creating the issue. And in a quote, they say, "We would let them into the building and treat them just like any other student, but we knew they were being exposed to it. You could smell it," Kathy Althoff, a former teacher, said. Althoff also has concerns on how the district will enforce this policy. She says, "Who's going to manage it? Who's going to do the calling?" Althoff said, "It worries me that you're going to lose the kids if they go home. They may not come back. Even if they waited and came back the next day, they've still lost a day of school, and you need them there." Well, I happen to agree with her on that, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. All these parents up there, I can't wait to see what you guys say. I remember that there was kids that, like, you know, that were, had serious issues at home, and like to where like a lot of days they didn't shower, and none of these kids were removed for odor that was that people didn't want to smell. And now all of a sudden this school is doing this because of this. I think it's a little bit disingenuous, and it's kind of, it can be very, possibly a little traumatizing for some of these kids and whatnot. And we want these kids to get educated and not sent home. So I just have so many issues with this story, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Is this Decatur, Georgia, or Decatur, Illinois?
Illinois.
Okay, Illinois. Okay. Well, regardless, let's, no sixth grader should be coming to school smelling like they just left dead lot. Like that's just that's insane.
You know what though,
but
Jenny Beth?
That also goes to show. Well, I mean, what are you doing?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Way to drop your kid off.
Hold on. A lot of parents will, you know what I'm saying, are from our generation, and they're going to smoke weed in the car and whatnot. And so if you smoke weed in the car, it's going to leave a smell in the car, and then so the kid's going to get in the car, going to get dropped off, and it's going to probably ultimately smell like weed, whether or not there was even weed smoked in the car.
So I can speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure that everybody else on the panel will agree with me. And if not, then okay, that's fine. That's just your opinion, man. But when you become a parent, some of these things you've always done, right, have to be adjusted just a little bit for the good of your child. And not sending your kid to school smelling like the ass end of a blunt is probably one of those things that you might want to change a little bit. But the fact that so many kids in Decatur, Illinois, are coming to school stinking like weed, like, this is a 6th grade teacher, Jason. Like, nobody should be hotboxing anything that a 6th grader is in.
Look, you know, I can agree with you all day, but I'm also, you know, it's not the practicality of the life of the world that we live in and what actually happens in the real world. And so, you know what I mean?
In my house, okay? So when I threw parties for the mommy group and stuff in my locked basement, there was a whole bunch of fucking weed. So yes, around harvest time, it stunk a bit in there. But never have I ever sent my child out into the world stinking. Any other parents? Am I crazy? Please tell me if I'm crazy.
I think you're a little crazy. I mean, I have no problem saying that.
I like to send my kid to school smelling like patchouli rather than cannabis. But maybe that would be. I think this brings up a scientific point, which is that the aroma of cannabis does not cause an effect, that we have been trained because of the illegality of cannabis to react to the aroma. But now that it's legal, we're going to have to retrain our reactions to say it's just a regular smell.
Exactly.
That happens. I don't know if somebody's using it medicinally, if they have a choice, whether they're going to not use it around their children or you know, have sort of smell guards before they leave the house. You know, it becomes a little difficult there. But anyway, I like the point that the aroma doesn't cause a psychoactive effect.
Dominus Dank in the chat, he said, I had a teacher smelled like booze every day and nobody cared. And so, you know, I just think I don't think they should be sending kids home just because if their clothes smell like weed. I think that's totally ridiculous. If anything, maybe they should have a bottle of perfume or cologne and just slap some of that on them and then send them back into class. That would make a lot more sense.
Smelling like you instead of a fucking weed smelling child.
I mean, if it's something that they're so concerned about, that to me seems like a much more way to remediate the situation as opposed to sending a kid home when there's a high likelihood that the kid's not going to come back.
Well, we all remember the program, Jason, and this is not necessarily about the smell of cannabis and kids stinking like weed being distracting. They're about to catch your parents doing some shit around you they probably shouldn't be doing around you. But that's just my thought.
I mean, but at the same time, it could just all be THCA, Jenny Beth. It could all be hemp that they're smoking, and because the terpenes are all the same.
You make my head hurt.
Just saying, it's true. It's true. Truth hurts. I know. I know the truth hurts. I get it. I understand. Truth hurts. It's reality. You're on mute, Jesse. You're on mute.
Yeah, I had sirens. Sorry. I
forgot. Yeah, man. Love some sirens.
Over here for a minute. I don't understand. We're missing a part of this, and that's that a lot of kids start smoking weed at 12.
Fair enough. That's another good point. I wish I had a little dinger bell over here.
So it may not be the parents every time. It may be the kids who are too stupid to, you know, wash their hands and take care of stuff, and maybe they have a pipe in their pocket that they just smoked or a roach that they just smoked. So that smell of a roach is very strong and does not go away. And so maybe they're young and dumb and they're carrying around a roach through school, so they smell a lot. And what are you going to do about that? I think the second part of that is really important. If school is so important and kids need it so bad, kicking someone out for smelling like weed seems like counterproductive.
Yep. I agree with that.
Right.
You know what, Jesse, too?
I personally think that that's a good thing because I think school is just mainly a brainwashing program. But and so the more kids are out of school, the better.
It kind of depends on what color hair your teacher has or whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, but for the most part, most schools are teaching a very state-sponsored set of beliefs.
That's fair. That's fair. You know, and to your point, Jesse, I remember like when I started smoking, there was in this apartment that we used to smoke in, and I used to have a bunch of my clothes in there, and in this closet, and it was like a big closet, like huge closet, and we would go in there and like we set in a couple couches in there, and like we used to chill, and we turned that into like our tack out room, and so we would just tack out in the closet. And all the clothes would always smell like weed because we're always just sitting in there smoking around it.
Didn't you guys do the dryer sheet in the
No, we wasn't worried. We wasn't worried about none of that kind of stuff.
Oh man, we had all those techniques.
Yes.
We smoked weed on the bus on the way to school.
Tack out. That means when you put yourself into a closed environment, Dr. T, and you just keep on smoking, and you don't let any new circulating air in.
Oh, like.
Yep, a hot box.
Yeah,
yep, same thing. Yep, same thing.
We smoked weed on the bus and never got busted.
See what I'm saying?
I don't know what these. I mean, and we had all kinds of systems going on.
Mm-hmm. What do you? Any thoughts on this, Dr. Mark, with your kids?
Yeah, I mean, my kids my kids are grown now. They're both consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Jake is 29 and Sophie's 23. When they went through, they still had that DARE program in there where the state police came in and broke up weed and said, if your parents do this at home, you should turn them in.
Yeah.
But school is a pretty polarized place. There's a lot of misconceptions around cannabis and cannabis use. And, if you throw that into the social circles of school, kids are there to meet peers and develop lifelong relationships with friends and classmates and whatnot. So yeah, things like weed smell can basically affect that and impact that, right? And it may not be the kids themselves, but it might be the parents of the kids, or it might be biased teachers who we don't want that in our school and everything. So the best thing to do if you are a consumer is don't send your kids to school smelling like weed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just going to create problems for them down the road, right? If they're in high school, like I think what you were pointing out earlier, this is around the age that kids start smoking, might even smoke before school.
Mm-hmm.
That's a completely different thing than whether or not they reek because they're coming from a car where parents were hotboxing on the way to school. That's just, to me, pretty irresponsible, right? You shouldn't, like Spicoli when he rolls out of that van and there's just the smoke wafting out and everything like that. Let's hope there's no kid in drop-off line that's, as soon as the door opens to the car, that there's just, billowing smoke come out of the car. I mean, that's just irresponsible. I don't think you should be smoking in the car with your kid if you're bringing your kid to school. But, I remember, before high school, ducking off in the woods with my friends and maybe, in high before school. I mean, that's just a time-honored tradition. I think it happens. That's when kids typically start to smoke, when they're in high school. 12 years old, kind of a little early. But, that's right around the age. I think I started smoking 12, 14-ish, 13-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult to say whether it was the kid consuming or whether it's, just absorbing stuff from home. And, you bring up a really good point, Jason. If you live in a house where you're constantly consuming indoors, ultimately, every fabric
everything
in the house
will
start absorbing everything. Even if you look on your walls themselves, like if you look where artwork is hung and you look where like artwork is not hung, what you'll see is that, where artwork is not hung or where artwork is hung, it's kind of like the paint
there's
is
like a little
lighter
filmy.
because-
Yeah, a little filmy.
Yeah, there's a little film. I mean, if you're constantly exhaling, whether it's dabs or smoke, into your living space, it is going to basically like just when you smoke inside your car. I mean, I try not to ever smoke inside of any moving vehicle. But when you smoke inside a car, it gets absorbed by the upholstery and everything.
So are you saying that you smoke in parked cars then, Dr. Mark?
No.
Okay, all right.
Kind of smoke in the great outdoors where it should be.
Oh man, that's I just feel bad for the kids that are going to get sent home because of this. I don't think that's the right solution. I think there's a number of other mitigating things. You know what I mean? Even if the school went and bought clothes and just made other kids change into other clothes and like they did kind of like a clothes exchange.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And let's say it here, reeking of pot smoke and reeking of raw cannabis are two very, very different things.
Yep.
In Denver, if you go, if you're kind of in the LoHo section of Denver, you go to any restaurant there where a lot of cannabis employees work, restaurants start smelling like weed. In fact, some restaurants in Denver will say, if you smell like weed, we reserve the right to not serve you. And I don't know, some restaurants will serve, weed smelling employees outside, like if there's tables set up outside under umbrellas and whatnot like that, weed smokers can go in there. But I remember going into a restaurant just for lunch. In fact, I was meeting with some folks in growing and production. And you walk into a restaurant and you're like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of weed employees in here because it smells like raw cannabis. It doesn't smell like smoked cannabis. You might smell some smoked cannabis outside the restaurant because someone's taking a hit. But, typically, You know what? People who work around the plant are going to smell like weed. You know what would some restaurants reserve the right to not serve them.
You know what also
I got in trouble at work one time, Jason, when I was still working in ophthalmology as well as consulting on cultivation and breeding. And they were like, oh, well, some of these girls didn't like me. And they were like, there's weed in your purse. I'm like, go through my purse. There's not weed in my purse. I literally live in a fucking breeding facility. Like, I consult on cannabis cultivations. What do you want from me? And they're like, well, we want you to put your purse in the car until your shift is over. I'm like, great. Excellent. Well, but it smelled like raw cannabis. It didn't smell like just blown blood smoke in it.
There's a whole nother solution that I think that could work is I think these schools could get some type of grant funding to buy one of these. When you go into like super like high tech, really professional cultivations and you have to walk in and you go in through one of those air chambers and they spritz all that air off you and make sure that nothing is living on you or anything else like that. I feel like a school could get a grant for something like that and they just throw the kid in there, you spritz them down with the air pressure or whatnot, and then boom, just send them back on their class. And they could load that up with a fabric softener, and you know what I'm saying? They'd be fresh and clean and ready to go, ready to learn.
I feel like what the easiest solution would be is to have some sort of uniform like you would give out for gym clothes. If students didn't have gym clothes, make them switch into those for the rest of the day. But I also feel like we spent a tremendous amount of time on this story that is mostly a nothing burger and common sense.
I have one more thing to say.
Me too.
Oh, go for it, you guys. Go for it, Jesse and Dr. T.
We're talking about 12-year-olds. Some of them probably do smoke weed, let's be honest. And it's pretty easy to order terpenes online.
Yeah.
If I was 12 years old, in fact, I remember dreaming of doing things like this. And now with the internet and all the ability to order things from a phone and have it brought right to you, I could totally see one of these 12-year-olds getting a bottle of terpenes and spritzing the entire school.
Yep. I could see that. I mean, I had friends, Jesse, in school that would call a bomb threat in if they didn't have their classwork done for upcoming thing. They call a bomb threat in. Boom, that whole period is shot for that day.
Stuff like
well,
that.
Well, let's go ahead and finish this off with Dr. T because that's a crime.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. This is a great opportunity for a new perfume line, cannabis smelling perfume.
Yep.
Oh, you smell like weed. Oh, it's just my new perfume. You pull out the bottle. And that way you don't get sent home. It was just you wearing perfume.
Oh, no. If you spray it on the teacher, bro, you spray it on the teacher, then the teacher has to go home too.
Don't spray it on anybody. Yeah, they will not like you if you spray it on them.
Oh, man, that would be good. That would be good. Well, coming up next is Dr. Jean Talleyrand. He's the founder of the CESC and of Medican, where you can get your doctor recommendations online all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's right. It is none other than Dr. Jean Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone. Let's see, to stay along with the science theme, my story today is from SciPost. Surprising study suggests cannabis can improve some types of memory in the aging brain, by Eric Dolan. As cannabis use continues to rise among older adults, researchers are trying to understand how it affects cognitive function during aging. A new study published in the journal Psychopharmacology provides evidence that cannabis and its primary psychoactive ingredient, THC, may actually improve certain types of memory in aged rats. Though these effects depend on sex, the method of delivery, and the specific type of cognitive task. Cannabis use is becoming increasingly common in older adults. From 2015 to 2023, the percentage of people over 65 in the United States who reported using cannabis in the past year nearly tripled. Many use it regularly, often to manage chronic pain, anxiety, or sleep. But while cannabis is well known to impair memory and attention in young adults, very little is known about how it affects the aging brain, which is already more vulnerable to cognitive decline. In fact, previous studies in aged mice suggested that low doses of THC might improve cognitive function, a surprising finding that raised new questions about cannabis, about whether cannabis would actually help remediate age-related memory problems under some conditions. The current study, led by Jennifer Bison at University of Florida, Gainesville, aimed to explore this possibility in greater detail. The researchers wanted to know how cannabis affects two different kinds of memories: working memory, which relies on the prefrontal cortex, and spatial memory, which depends on the hippocampus. In both young and aged rats, male and female, they were both tested. They also wanted to use delivery methods that reflected how people typically consume cannabis, by smoking and eating. Most prior preclinical research on cannabinoid effects on behavior employed routes of administration like injection that did not mirror how humans actually use cannabis. And thus we wanted to develop a more translationally relevant model of cannabis use, explained Barry Setlow, a professor and vice chair of research at the Department of Psychiatry. The second inspiration was from some results from our cannabis smoke research program, in which we found, to our surprise at the time, that acute exposure to cannabis smoke could actually improve a form of cognition, working memory. This is older adults, not kids, not related to the previous study, but only in those subjects that happened to have poor performance under baseline conditions. So it was older adults with cognitive deficits. The third inspiration was from our research on age-related cognitive decline, in which we found that, like in aged humans, working memory tends to decline in aged rats. Putting together all these lines of research, we initially evaluated how cannabis smoke affected cognition in aging, Setlow explained. We then extended this work to evaluate oral THC consumption, i.e. edibles, as this is an increasingly common route of consumption in older adults. The research team carried out 3 experiments using young adults and aged rats. In the first experiment, they exposed rats to cannabis smoke and tested them in 2 different touchscreen-based memory tasks. Rats using iPads, I guess. In the second experiment, the researchers examined the effects of chronic oral THC consumption delivered through gelatin, so those are like gummies, that the rats voluntarily consumed over 3 weeks. The third experiment measured how THC and its metabolites circulated in the body over time, depending on the method of its administration. That's typically called a PK study. This allowed the researchers to compare how young and aged rats metabolized THC after smoking or eating. Among young rats, cannabis smoke had no detectable effect on memory performance, which contradicted previous studies. But in aged rats, cannabis smoke improved working memory performance, especially at longer delays. In contrast, aged females showed impaired performance with cannabis smoke exposure. So it was different between older female rats and older male rats. When THC was consumed orally over several weeks, so this is like the gummy, it produced a more consistent improvement in working memory among age rats. So more consistent if you have gummies. Both males and females showed enhanced accuracy, also more consistent among genders. This cognitive boost was not seen in young adult rats, suggesting that the effects are specific to age-related deficits. These effects were specific to working memory. The same rats showed no significant changes in their performance on spatial memory tasks. We were somewhat surprised that cannabis, or THC, only seemed to benefit working memory and forms of learning and memory mediated by the hippocampus, Setlow told SciPost. The researchers offered a few possible explanations for the age-specific benefits of THC. One theory involves the brain's inhibitory signaling systems. Aging is associated with increased inhibition in the prefrontal cortex, which may contribute to cognitive decline. By activating cannabinoid receptors, THC might reduce this inhibition, allowing for more effective neuronal signaling, especially in brains that have become too suppressed with age. Another possibility involves inflammation. Aging is linked to increased brain inflammation, which can interfere with cognition. THC has known anti-inflammatory effects, including reducing the activity of microglia, which are immune cells in the brain, and decreasing levels of inflammatory molecules. But the findings are all in line with a long-term study of over 5,000 Danish men, which found that those who had used cannabis at some point in their lives experienced slightly less cognitive decline over a 44-year period compared to those who had never used it. The researchers suggest that future studies should investigate how other components of cannabis, especially CBD, affect cognitive aging. They also recommend longer-term studies to determine whether the benefits of chronic THC persist over more than 3 weeks. Finally, understanding the biological mechanisms that drive sex differences in response to cannabis will be important for developing age and sex-specific treatments. So this study is a big myth buster, I believe. Although cannabis has been known to affect short-term memory, this study suggests differently. I appreciate that the authors studied both the acute effects of cannabis smoke, although I didn't know what kind of smoke they had, as well as chronic ingestion of THC, as in the gummy. The major caveat is that mice are different than humans. That's important to keep in mind. It's becoming increasingly evident that cannabis use is beneficial in the elderly population. That's another good point. In an era where baby boomers make up a large segment of the population, this is good news for the cannabis industry. What do you think? Should your parents and grandparents be using cannabis as their memory fades? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News.
Wow. Man, I feel like, I want to, sit with some elderly folks, smoke some weed and play a game of memory now, Dr. T, and see who can last longer on this.
You're right on. It's working memory. So,
yeah.
Sudoku or whatever you want to play.
Yeah. I mean, memory was a classic little card game back in the day. Yeah.
Oh, memory is actually a game.
Yeah, memory. You don't remember that game, Memory?
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, bro. You had to match the cards.
Yeah.
Dr. T, that's a very old game. Memory is very old.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not like...
Yeah. It's just where you flip the cards.
Oh, we called it concentration. I don't know.
Yep, same thing.
Same game.
Yeah.
Same game, different name.
Mm-hmm.
Different name. East Coast.
Yeah.
Dr. T, I love this. We've covered stories like this all the time, that plant medicines in general seem to be helping the brain in so many ways. Psilocybin, we've looked at many studies where new neural pathways are grown by psilocybin use. Cannabis is the same. It seems to be impacting lifelong, right? Like the study you just quoted, they said that people men specifically who used cannabis, it affected them over 40 years time. They had less cognitive decline over time. think this is just going to continue to be the case, because these things are food. These things are meant to be in our diets, and we're supposed to be ingesting these things and benefiting our bodies and our brains.
We just need to let the older folks know that little low dose THC daily may be the thing to keep your cognitive decline down.
So and alternate that with some psilocybin.
Dr. T, so we know that cannabis bonds to fat, and we know that all of your memory cells in the brain are stored in your fat cells in the brain. Is that the reason that cannabis is beneficial for the memory? Is there a correlation there?
No, there are these cells called pyramidal cells that are influenced by cannabinoids, and the pyramidal cells usually, I believe, are inhibitory, and so cannabis may prevent their inhibition, I believe, is what they're saying. Anyway, it's an explanation between pyramidal cells and microglial cells. And Mark might know a little bit more, since this is in his realm of TBI.
Dr. Mark, what do you got to say on this, Dr. Mark?
Oh gosh, how much time?
You might be studying the biochemistry of it.
Yeah. The brain is extremely complex, and I think it's still debated on how short and long-term memory sort of works within the hippocampus, and how that's also related to another portion of the brain, which is called the limbic system, which is part, or the amygdala is part of the limbic system, which controls emotions. And so there's a connection between emotions and memory. And the one thing, that Dr. Meshulam has always talked about is, and the reason why cannabis is good, or cannabinoids are good in general for treating PTSD, is that while it's in an evolutionary sense very important that humans were able to remember certain things, right? Like that saber-toothed tiger isn't something you should just go up and pet, right? The guys who did that got weeded out of the gene pool, right?
No pun intended.
It's important to be able to forget, right? Because if you try to remember every face of every person that you've seen in the last 3 weeks, your head will explode, right?
Yeah.
So for obvious reasons, in an evolutionary sense, you have to be able to forget certain things. And again, I think that's where cannabinoids can help with PTSD. If you think about it, like if a soldier is thinking about, this terrible, situation when he was in war, or he or she in war, and now their brain is stuck in kind of like this do loop, right? They keep on seeing the visions of these terrible things. So your mind has to be able to forget those things, right? And there's certainly a balance when it comes to homeostasis of remembering certain critical things that are going to keep you alive, right? Certain, say smells that trigger memories right away. It's like, oh, I smell that. That smells bad. I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to get sick, right? So, certainly the ability to remember acts and things that you can recall, sometimes, it's a very, very complex way that your brain basically stores information. It stores critical information that you absolutely need to survive, but maybe those things that you don't need to know, like, what was the score of the Mets-Cardinals game 2 weeks ago? Well, I watched the game, but I can't remember the score of the game. Well, okay, that's okay to forget about certain things. So, memory is important, but being able to forget is also very important too. And I think cannabinoids, which help establish homeostasis, hardwire into that memory fact. And I'm not sure, Dr. T, it's really fully understood. I mean, even like with PTSD, how cannabis and cannabinoids help. I think agonizing the CB1 receptor certainly gives you the high and maybe that high in general, results in, vasodilation. So you're going to, maybe lower your blood pressure a little bit, maybe, forget about things that are, problematic, like, how am I going to pay this month's rent? I just lost my job, things like that, where you can kind of like get into not a dream state, but a state where only really the important memories really matter. And I think cannabis helps establish that balance. I don't think it's well understood exactly how that works, but I think it does work.
Well, I think your major point is that there are different types of memories, and the cannabinoids may affect memory on some level and then differently on a different level. This study was specifically working memory, so think the memory game that you guys used to play. It helps with it seems to help with that. So like you say, you can play the memory game with your grandpa if grandpa uses a little bit of THC. But is this
wouldn't the same portion of your brain that you would use in that memory game could also be affected in traumatic witnessing traumatic stress, right? So there could be, like, again, a way that your brain is kind of remembering what happened, which is, again, causing physiological changes within your body.
I would look into, more fight or flight, more sympathetic, parasympathetic, and see how that affects memory. Because I think that's what they were doing. I mean, they were using the flick test, where they put the tail
right
on a hot plate, and the rats didn't seem to react as much to that hot plate. The ones who were using THC. And so it was sort of extinguishing this memory of trauma in a way. I don't know how that interrelates with memory, but memory is complex. I think that's the bottom line. And so there are different types of memories and different ways to provoke memory. Smell is also another way to provoke memory. And maybe in that previous story, the smell associated with cannabis was causing a reaction amongst the staff. Sorry to bring
it was causing all the students to get to reminisce about smoking bad weed, I bet.
Yeah. So memory is really fascinating because it can be triggered by many things, and there are many different types of memory. And that's what we love to do, is dissect it and understand it better. But the cannabinoids are definitely involved, it looks like.
Well, Dr. T, correct me if I'm wrong, but the smell is your strongest memory reactor as far as your senses. Am I correct on that?
I think so. I don't know, but that's what I understood too. That smell was at least very strong. Your strongest sense that can recall memories is that's what I was taught, and that's what I've learned. So, but nonetheless, Jenny Beth, you have any final thoughts on this story before we move on?
No.
All right, fair enough. We're gonna roll right into our next commercial, and we are gonna be right back.
I'm Cole Preston, and today I'm at Blue Island Beer Company for the premiere of my mini documentary on legalization policy in Illinois. I've been following cannabis policy since colorful Colorado legalized it all the way back in the day, and when my home state of Illinois decided to legalize it, I just became enamored. I wondered, what would it actually look like? If you'd like to see how Illinois fell short in achieving meaningful reform in their cannabis policy, you can watch my mini-doc now at colememo.com/mini-doc.
And we're back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint. on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
It's federal airspace.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. And we are back. Jenny Beth, you want to introduce Dr. Mark?
Yeah. Coming up next from Lake Champlain. Yeah, I got it right that time. Thank God. Celebrating no holiday other than Jerry Garcia Day today. Our chemistry expert, Dr. Mark After Dark, Scialdone.
Dr. Mark After Dark.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm not in the lake right now, but I was actually out on the lake yesterday and I was fishing with my friends. So we were spending some time on beautiful Lake Champlain. My story today, first of all, happy Friday and happy Jerry Day to everyone. I hope everyone has got some kind of cannabis plans in their weekend plans, and maybe even listen to some Grateful Dead. Yes, the Grateful Dead are having some big festival concert kind of thing in San Francisco, and Dr. T is going to stay far away from it. Anyway, today my story comes from a marijuana moment, and it's entitled DEA, right, the Drug Enforcement Agency, right, promotes claim that marijuana causes depression, suicide, shortly after new administrator is sworn in. So just days after the Senate confirmed a new head of the Drug Enforcement Agency, or administration rather, the DEA, the agency is promoting yet another message warning against marijuana use, linking it to depression and suicidal thinking. On Friday, the DEA-run site Get Smart About Drugs shared an article published in Psychology Today that warned against the use of cannabis, that was written by Mark S. Gold, professor and chairman of psychology at Yale University, who has been lauded by prohibitionists, including the organization Smart Approaches to Marijuana, right? That's Kevin Sabbath's organization, right? We all know Kevin Sabbath. The article is entitled Cannabis Use Increases Depressive and Suicidal Thinking. Notes a number of numerous states have legalized cannabis, which has reversed criminalization, and but rather than following the FDA-like testing and approval, cannabis was suddenly available as a quote-unquote medicine. Cannabis is largely unstudied. That's a joke, right? And has failed rigorous medical trials, also a joke. So its impact on mental health is mostly unknown, Gold writes in the DEA spotlighted article, declining to acknowledge the tens of thousands of studies that have been published on marijuana and the plant's risks and benefits in the last decade alone. I think if you search over the last several decades, you'll find, probably hundreds of thousands of articles, not just tens of thousands. So multiple recent studies have presented convincing evidence supporting likely causal pathways from youth cannabis use to depression and suicidal outcomes in adolescent and adulthood, a DEA promoted article says. Trauma or minority stress and self-medication heighten vulnerability, making cannabis a perceived treatment or coping mechanism in the absence of FDA-approved treatments for physiological support or treatment. Depressed patients should be assessed for cannabis use as a possible additional factor for suicidal behavior, Gold concluded. Also, cannabis use in turn should be assessed for depression and suicidal behaviors. Lastly, future cohort studies should track the onset timing of cannabis use, depressive symptoms, and suicidal behaviors. SAM, the organization, not the individual. Say it again, SAM. SAM, a leading prohibitionist group that has led the charge against pending marijuana rescheduling proposal before the DEA, called Gold, perhaps the most distinguished professor in the country on drugs and brain in the body, a fact sheet. While the DEA has been promoting a variety of anti-cannabis campaigns and editorials, this latest feature comes at a notable time following the Senate confirmation and swearing in of Terrence Cole to serve as the agency's administrator. Advocates and stakeholders are monitoring closely to see how the DEA navigates the policy and measuring or messaging around cannabis with Cole's confirmation. Cole indicated during his confirmation process that he planned to prioritize marijuana rescheduling without giving a specific opinion on the reform. But that was not reflected in a statement issued following his taking office on Friday, with the cannabis policy going unmentioned as part of a list of immediate priorities. So far, the Trump administration, it seems, the agency is giving up on its ancillary anti-marijuana promotions. For example, the last week marked World Emoji Day by promoting its guide to decode symbols that it claimed are associated with illegal drug use and sales. Also, during National Prevention Week in May, the DEA highlighted a campaign that encourages people to share memes with dubious claims about effects of cannabis, including the theory that it is the gateway drug to other substances. The Just Say No campaign wasn't directly organized by the DEA. Rather, it was coordinated by the organization's Johnny's Ambassadors, which was founded by parents who say their child died by suicide after consuming high-potency marijuana concentrates. But federal agency hosted the meme on two of its taxpayer-funded websites and sent email blasts to promote them. In 2023, the DEA also advised young people that rather than doing drugs, they should focus on becoming Instagram influencers. Really? That's what the DEA is promoting? Young people should become Instagram influencers? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
The agency has promoted tips on how to get a natural high as an alternative to drugs, sharing what it said were 7 better highs, such as becoming famous on Instagram, playing video games, going to pet stores to look at animals.
This is great.
Oh, isn't that cute? So the DEA thinks that they can replace youth and adolescent cannabis use with just sending kids to Instagram to be an influencer, or sending a kid to a video game site so they can play video games, or going to a pet store to look at animals. You know, I mean, really? Come on now. I mean, the DEA is just a joke, right? We all agree that the DEA is a joke. DEA probably should be abolished. It won't be abolished because, again, it's part of the government's way of controlling the way people think, right? And when they get a professor like this, who certainly is a highly lauded professor from Yale, he's the chairman of their the Department of Psychology. I looked him up on NIH to see if he was getting NIH funding. I don't see any NIH funding directly going to him. In a recent paper, they expressed no source of external funding. But I'll bet you $1 to a donut that this guy is either funded by Big Pharma big alcohol, or maybe getting funding directly from Smart or someone, because again, they're finding basically a professor that can basically throw other professors under the bus. I think it's funny. I mean,
A desk
obviously,
drawer for cash.
yeah, but like this guy, so check him out on the web, Dr. T. His name is Mark S. Gold. He's certainly out there as being an advocate against cannabis, and more recently an advocate against all the hemp-derived stuff. He was in an article back in June in Psychology Today that talked about gas station weed, right, which opened up the whole gamut of Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC, and all that other stuff. I don't know. I mean, he's also kind of on the cannabis use disorder bandwagon, although he did not coin the term cannabis use disorder. It's all over one of his recent papers, so I think he buys into the fact that the reward system. Dr. T, what I find interesting is that he studies all kinds of addictive drugs, right? So he's looked at opiates, he's looked at alcohol, he's looked at nicotine, and certainly the connection that's made between, say, like the nicotinic receptors, which act on nicotine, and the reward system that we know as the dopamine or dopaminergic system. So there's connections between these systems in the brain, certainly. But Dr. T, isn't it true? I mean, again, I don't look at this as being, it's what they're saying is that they're linking marijuana use to depression and suicidal thinking. Is there any better conventional studies that you know of that talks about the link between depression and cannabis use or suicidal ideation?
I haven't seen anything on suicide. I have. There might have been some older studies that I have to dig up. For depression, there are some positive studies on how cannabinoids or cannabis can improve depressive symptoms. It's really the issue is these associative studies. These observational studies where you're just looking for things that are associated. But you don't know what's causing what, one thing
Right.
could be causing the other, or you can flip it around and say, oh, more people with depression are using cannabis rather than more cannabis is associated with depression. The study doesn't really figure out the cause of it.
Right.
I think that's where he should know this.
He does.
A good scientist.
He knows
this, and he's using it as to misrepresent
Propaganda.
the evidence. Yeah.
That as it ties into your story about memories, and so if you have some traumatic memories that haunt you, and cannabis kind of makes those memories go away, you're going to sit in this well of depression if you keep on thinking about those bad memories, like if you were abused as a child, or if you were teased, or if you just had something that happened that was a bad memory. Well, my cannabis use is helping me forget about those memories. So again, playing into that memory thing, couldn't that be a way of controlling a cause for depression? Is I'm stuck in this well and I keep thinking about, being teased or being abused, right? So I think the things are related, and obviously if you're feeling better after, so if you're feeling like you're depressed and you're feeling suicidal, and then you use cannabis and now you feel high and you feel better, doesn't that mean that in a way you're treating that depression that led to that mood that you were in where, oh, I'm depressed, right? My girlfriend hates me, my life sucks. Oh, wait a second.
No, it just means
hey,
there's a link, and depressed people are there because they smoke weed. Don't you get it, Dr. Mark?
Well,
What's interesting about depression is that usually depression, and you have a loss of memory with depression. It's one of the symptoms of depression is poor concentration and memory loss. I don't know if there's an actual biochemical explanation for that, something in the neurotransmitters or dopamine and norepinephrine. I don't know. But that's an interesting memory, and depression is a great thing to look at.
Well, I saw this commercial last night for a drug called Rexulti or Caplyta. Or I can't remember. It's these completely fictitious names. They sound like rocket ships or new planets or new stars. And so they're going through this commercial, right? And they're showing this woman. I guess they first show her, she looks sad, but then later in the commercial, she looks normal. And now she's taken her FDA-approved drug, right, by a billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. And as they're going through the long list of side effects, Dr. T, they're saying suicidal thoughts. So, if you're a psychiatrist,
you remember
how
Prozac
can you prescribe this method, this medicine to a patient who's depressed, where the medicine in and of itself might generate suicidal thoughts?
Well, doctors, I mean, I thought all pharmaceutical drugs only actually helped 10% of the population that they're designed to help.
Well, they have to at least help more than 30% because that's the placebo effect.
Interesting.
So, some of them are just right there, 31%.
Right at that level.
Yeah. But depression is a very difficult thing. I have seen people who are so depressed that it's deadly. They're not eating. It's essentially bringing their life to an end. And I've seen everything from medication to ECT. Giving electrical shocks to them to bring them out of the depression. So they'll try anything when it gets pretty bad. But yeah, you've got to weigh your positives and negatives when you're adding the drug. Rexulti is not the first line of treatment. It's usually you're failing your SSRIs, and so you're going for Rexulti. But I think before going down that road, I think cannabis should be a candidate.
I agree with that. Dr. T. I'm all for that. And we're going to roll into our final commercial. And apparently we're supposed to become social media influencers according to the federal government.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where do I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys. And I do want to acknowledge a super chat that came in from the C-Word. Thank you so much, the C-Word, who says, "Have a high weekend, you sweet, sweet marijuana geniuses." Thank you so much for that, C-Word. We appreciate that. And Jesse, you had a question on the last story before we move on?
I mean, I want to bring up a few questions. I went and chased down the study itself in PubMed, and it seems like, okay, so this study was all these kids, or all these people actually, because this was done over a 30-year period. And they started studying them and talking to them when they were young. And it seems like, Dr. T, you were right. They're just associating like people who tried cannabis in a young age also were people who were depressed in their young 20s. And they're just correlating that without any actual evidence. They're just saying that happened. So clearly they're saying because it's correlated, it must be caused by cannabis. I think
that's the leap they shouldn't do, the cause. They should just say it's correlated. Whether the depressed people found cannabis or whether the cannabis found the depressed people is really still in question.
It's amazing to me that this is all people from Zurich, Switzerland. So there's something there. Like, why didn't they?
High
go
rate of
broader
depression.
Right. Is that the case? Do they have a high rate
Could
of
be.
depression?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
they don't have a lot of sunlight.
And what about socioeconomic backgrounds in Zurich? There's a lot of money there.
Everybody's
correct?
rich there. Everyone's rich there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's something else. There's underlying stories, it feels like, going on. The next thing is that this guy, Mark Gold, I think is his name.
Yes.
Yeah. Mark S. Gold, MD. He's highly lauded and from Yale and has tons of awards and has tons of citations. He's clearly very associated with big pharma in some way. I mean, he goes way back, right? So it's like he's quoting this. This is an anecdotal study. This is just we asked a bunch of questions. They told us these were the answers, and there's the study. And there are all these people from Zurich. And then it's also interesting. So this article says the DEA promotes claim that marijuana causes depression and suicide shortly after new administrator is sworn in. The new administrator is Terry Cole, right?
Yep.
What is
That's
it like this? I'm confused because I'm like, what does this new administrator have to do with a 30-year study that just got dropped by this guy, Mark Cole? There's some weird propaganda, and I'm just trying
they're all
there's these weird associations happening just to say this.
they're related, bro. They're all Coles. They're all from the Cole family. That's the
Yeah,
association.
so I just
Jesse.
wanted to point out that there's a bunch of very odd things.
There's a bunch of lumps of coal.
Our Cole memo in the chat is a different.
Yes, the
right,
Cole memo in the
correct.
chat is very different, even though the Cole memo in general doesn't do anything and has no teeth. But
Called for his
nonetheless.
bite. He called for his bowl. I guess we all know about old King Cole, right?
Oh, look I see what you did there. I see what you did there, Dr. Mark. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right in to Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co., and he's the redheaded ninja grandfather that loves to strike back on all of your graphic design needs and wants. It is none other than Jesse Barney. Why that's even possible.
Wait, double check it.
Yeah. We're checking on it for you guys.
Oh,
Talk,
Keep
Jesse.
speaking,
Just keep talking,
speaking.
Jesse.
yo, I'm talking. Can anyone hear me?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, there we
All right,
go.
there we go. All right,
Okay,
sweet.
perfect.
Thanks, guys.
We're back.
We're back. There we go. Go for it, Jesse.
When did we drop? Did
I don't know.
get
I don't know.
anything from me?
I don't think they got anything from you,
Is
Jesse.
bro muted? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll start over.
Yeah.
A comprehensive review published in the peer-reviewed journal Medical Cannabis and Cannabinoids has found that physicians across the United States often feel ill-equipped to recommend or discuss medical marijuana with patients, largely due to limited education and training, inconsistent clinical guidelines, and federal-state conflicts. Researchers at the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine conducted a scoping review of 41 studies published between January 2013 and February 2025, evaluating the knowledge, attitudes, and prescribing practices of U.S. physicians healthcare professionals, and medical trainees regarding medical cannabis. These studies included electronic surveys, interviews, and evaluations of continuing medical education courses with participants representing multiple specialties, including oncology, emergency medicine, dermatology, obstetrics. How do I say that, doctor? Obstetrics? I see Dr. T nodding.
Yep.
And palliative care. The review revealed that many physicians, especially those in states where marijuana is not yet fully legalized, lacked confidence in counseling patients on medical cannabis's therapeutic benefits, potential risks, and appropriate use. Physicians practicing in states with legalized medical cannabis and those with more years of experience were more likely to feel comfortable discussing and recommending the drug. The findings underscore a growing disconnect between medical marijuana's expanding legal availability and the medical community's readiness to engage with it as a treatment option. Although medical cannabis is now legal in some form in 47 states, the District of Columbia, and several U.S. territories, federal classification of marijuana as a Schedule I drug continues to create regulatory confusion. This tension, combined with insufficient integration of cannabis education into medical school curriculums and postgraduate training, has left many providers underprepared. Physicians in specialties more likely to encounter patients using or asking about MC, medical cannabis, such as oncology, palliative care, pain management, and emergency medicine, reported higher awareness of its potential benefits. For example, oncologists widely supported its use for managing cancer-related symptoms such as nausea, loss of appetite, and pain. Similarly, palliative care providers saw cannabis as useful for addressing a range of end-of-life symptoms. However, even among these providers, less than half had actually recommended medical cannabis to patients. Meanwhile, providers such as family physicians, pediatricians, and obstetricians remained more hesitant. Obstetric providers expressed concerns over perinatal cannabis use, often citing the possibility of legal consequences and involvement from child protective services during patient counseling. That's very interesting. Many pediatricians did not support medical cannabis use for children, particularly in cases of congenital conditions, citing insufficient safety data. Notably, physicians in states where medical cannabis was legal expressed more favorable attitudes, were more likely to have obtained certification to recommend it, and reported greater comfort levels when counseling patients. Older physicians and doctors of osteopathic medicine also tended to report greater comfort and more positive views than their younger and allopathic MD counterparts. Despite these trends, the overwhelming consensus among surveyed physicians was that medical marijuana education remains lacking. Many respondents said that they received little to no training in medical school or residency and called for more robust CME programs, which didn't ever tell us what a CME is. Clarify.
Continuing medical education.
There we go. And standardized clinical practice guidelines. They also emphasize the need for additional scientific research to inform evidence-based prescribing and patient education. The study also highlights the need to improve the education of medical students and trainees. While most students supported legalization and recognized a role for cannabis in medicine, many lacked the knowledge and confidence to properly advise patients. Academic administrators and medical school deans generally supported integrating medical cannabis education into medical curricula, though challenges remain in terms of standardizing such content across institutions. The authors concluded that to bridge the current knowledge gap, state medical boards and professional associations should expand educational offerings on medical marijuana through CME programs and medical school integration. At the same time, they argue for increased federal support for cannabis research and a more uniform regulatory standards to guide physician practices. As medical marijuana becomes increasingly a common part of patient care in the U.S., the findings stress the urgent need to ensure physicians are equipped with the tools, training, and knowledge to guide its safe and effective use. Well, this is an article I can definitely get behind because I know that doctors across the nation most of them don't even know what the endocannabinoid system is to begin with. And that is a crying shame. So I definitely want to hear what Dr. T and Dr. Mark have to say about this, because this is. Thank you. I'm Jesse Barney, and I'll toss it back.
Great story. I think it's an opportunity, to recognize that education is needed. The cannabis industry should really be spearheading. We need to understand a lot more about the endocannabinoid system. It's not completely clear. And then using that system to affect treatment is not going to be as simple as prescribing a drug. It's a complex system. It's homeostasis, it's balance, it's holistic, and so all these things need to be incorporated in terms of treating someone. So there's a lot to teach, basically, and I'm glad to hear that the medical schools are open to it. We just have to bring it to them, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Mark, what are your thoughts on this, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, totally agree with everything John just said. I think the more that medical professionals, nurse practitioners, and anybody who's seeing patients understands the value that cannabis can have in terms of a first line opportunity to treat, disorders, that it should not only be lawful, but it should be encouraged before prescribing pharmaceuticals with their long list of side effects. Exactly the previous two stories that we've talked about. We're gaining knowledge, but around every corner that we gain some knowledge, 10 other corners open up that we have to get around to really understand how these things work. Just like we were talking about with depression, or with this so-called cannabis use disorder. I think looking for causation versus correlation is part of the studies that we need to establish, but we also need to know, like if somebody is on an antidepressant medication like Rexulti or one of these other ones, what happens when they start combining cannabis with that? I think in some cases, Dr. T, it's been shown that actually cannabis and cannabis use and cannabinoids in general can make some drugs more effective, so you have to use less of it, or you have to use it less frequently. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? You think the pharmaceutical companies want that? No, because they want to sell more pills, right?
Yep.
But certainly for the patient's health, if you could lower the dose of any medication, because you can supplement it with cannabis use, that's just going to be a better outcome for the patient, right, Dr. T?
Yeah, lower or eliminate. There are people who've done both, or use them really successfully together. It needs to just be considered, and because it's happening out there in the real world. And the medical industry, if we continue to ignore it, we're just not going to be part of it, and the public needs us to participate.
And doctors, what the line that really bothered me in the article was that Child Protective Services, the doctors are afraid that they will get involved if somehow they're found out prescribing this to a family, and somehow there's a call made and Child Protective Services find out. Wouldn't they be protected by HIPAA and all that?
Nope, not for cannabis.
As long as you're doing your job, making sure that everybody's informed, discussing the risks. I've been doing this for a couple of decades, and Child Protective Services, if they go after someone, they'll go after the parent, but they don't usually go after the doctor.
Why would the doctors be worried about?
Because doctors are conservative
doctors don't want to get in the middle of everything. They don't want to get drawn into any drama. They got enough paperwork they got to do, let alone to get drawn in to get questioned about something going on.
Has that ever even happened where a doctor has been in trouble with CPS because they've been working with a family with cannabis? Have we heard
Not
of that?
that I know of.
Yeah, no,
I've worked with many families, and with a lot of great success, by the way. So, bring it on. I'd love to show our data and show what happened to those families. It would be educational for CPS.
Yeah. I agree. We definitely need a lot more of that going on, Jesse, as far as the education component and everything else like that. I totally agree with all of that every way. And you guys brought up CUD, and I promised a CUD story, and I just I got to say before I start this story, and weed for the people, because that's what people need, and that's what people want, that's what people deserve. Just more weed for the people, you guys, because doctors, I can't wait for you to hear this, because more propaganda.
I probably have to jump off. I got a patient waiting.
Oh, hold on. This is a quick story, Dr.
Fast.
T. Quick story. Cannabis use disorder triples risk of oral cancer, you guys. They're saying that's right. A recent study by researchers at the University of California, San Diego School of Medicine has found that individuals with cannabis use disorder, known as CUD, are more than 3 times more likely to develop oral cancer within 5 years compared to those without CUD. The study highlights the potential long-term health risks associated with problematic cannabis use. And in 2022, 17.7 million people reported daily or nearly daily cannabis use. Though CUD requires a formal diagnosis and not all cannabis users develop the disorder, recent research suggests that as many as 3 in 10 cannabis users will develop CUD. I think that's total propaganda. As cannabis becomes more widely available and socially accepted, it is essential to understand its potential health risks. While many consider cannabis to be safer than other drugs, such as tobacco and alcohol, there are still many unknowns about the health impacts of cannabis, particularly how the drug influences cancer risk. The new study sought to determine the relationship between CUD and oral cancer, for which tobacco smoking is known to be a significant risk factor. In a quote, they say, "Cannabis smoke contains many of the same carcinogenic compounds found in tobacco smoke, which have known damaging effects on the elliptical tissue that lines the mouth," said Dr. Rafael Como, PhD, Associate Professor in the Department of Anesthesiology at UC San Diego School of Medicine and a member of the UC San Diego Moores Cancer Center. In an additional quote, "These findings add to a growing body of evidence suggesting that chronic or problematic cannabis use may contribute to cancer risk in tissues exposed to combustion products." And by analyzing the electronic health records from over 45,000 patients, of whom 949 developed CUD, Como found, and after adjusting for age, sex, body mass index, and smoking status, people had 325% times higher likelihood of contracting oral cancer within 5 years compared to those without CUD. Tobacco smokers with CUD were 624% more likely to contract oral cancer within 5 years compared to tobacco smokers without CUD. And in a quote, they say, "Cannabis smoke contains many of the same carcinogenic compounds." I read that same quote. My bad. And that's a quote from Rafael Cuomo, PhD, Associate Professor in the Department of Anesthesiology at UC San Diego. And because the association between CUD and oral cancer remained even after controlling the smoking status, and because CUD was associated with a greater oral cancer risk, even when the analysis was restricted to smokers, the researchers hypothesize, there's that word right there, you guys, that there may be other factors underlying the risk in addition to smoke inhalation. For example, THC, the active compound in cannabis, is known to have immune suppressing effects, which may contribute to increased cancer risk, they say. And while more research is needed to fully explain the association between cannabis and oral cancer, the study's results have immediate implications for cancer screening practices and public health messaging, and in particular, the findings emphasize the need for further research on the long-term effects of cannabis use and the importance of integrating oral health awareness into substance use disorder treatment and counseling. And the study, published online in Preventative Medicine Reports, and reported no external funding or conflicts of interest, you guys. Well, I think that's a lot of propaganda, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Dr. T, what do you got to say before you go, buddy?
Yeah, it's the same thing, correlation versus causation. There's a lot of problems with the study that they're bringing up. I would just point out that they mentioned, I haven't looked at the study, but But what about Donald Tashkin's work at UCLA, just up the road from San Diego?
Mm-hmm.
Did they even look at those studies?
It didn't mention.
Was there an association?
It didn't mention any of that in this. I think this. I don't believe that they did,
I don't
because
know what they're doing.
it sounds to me like, it's based just how this whole write up is written. It sounds to me like they had a preordained agenda to correlate this, and especially with the fact that we've already covered stories to where CUD is mass overly diagnosed. The fact that they said 3 in 10 cannabis consumers develop CUD, I think that's totally ridiculous. I think probably the number is closer, even if let's just say CUD exists for the sake of thing. I think that number is close to like 1 in a million. Is more like the real numbers, as opposed to 3 in 10.
Yeah, I think the Tashkin studies were more rigorous in terms of association with oral cancer, and he didn't find any. So it's weird that they're finding something and he didn't find any. That really has to be figured out, and they need to understand. They need to look at that data if they're going to be writing studies on it. Without looking at that data, it's irresponsible. This is a NIDA-funded study. Anyway, I got to run, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. T. We appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much.
All right, have a great weekend.
Take care. Dr. Mark, what do you got to say about this,
the
buddy?
only thing I'll say is that it's known that there's several things that are in the essential oil of tobacco that basically are cancer causing. And so we know that like 60 milligrams of nicotine is about all you need in terms of an oral lethal dose for the average size human. So certainly when you combust cigarettes or when you combust tobacco, you're going to get a plethora of very, very toxic compounds. You just don't see that with cannabis. So trying to look at the toxicity of cannabis and comparing it to alcohol is apples and oranges discussion.
Dr. Mark. Oh, go ahead, please.
That the tars that you get from burning are bad. However, in cannabis, it's the prophylactic protective properties of the cannabinoids that basically wash out any effect that these tars and other residues formed on combustion cause.
Interesting. Dr. Mark, my question is, something I think that could help prevent against this oral cancer risk is maybe possibly just like brushing your teeth or rinsing your mouth out with mouthwash after you smoke, right? Wouldn't that help?
Well, actually, as it turns out, it depends. Not all toothpaste and not all oral rinses are
created equal.
Are good for the biome that exists in your mouth. So, like, if you're going to use something that's basically going to kill all the microbes in your mouth, I mean, yeah, that's good for microbes that cause bad breath, and ultimately, somebody who has very poor oral hygiene. Right? So you have all kinds of zoo of bacteria living in your mouth. But, ultimately there are good bacteria. And so bacteria in general are going to exude acid, which is no good for the teeth and ultimately rot your teeth. But there are some good bacteria. And so it's a balance between establishing a healthy biome in your body with also just, regular oral hygiene habits, I guess I would call it. So, brush after your meals, right? Any food particles left in your teeth become basically food for bacteria. Bacteria gets in there, you get gingivitis, you get bad breath, you get tartar, you get all the other hallmark signs of, things that lead eventually to gum disease, which you want to try to avoid. But what they found, again, is that cannabinoids are actually useful in the remodeling of bone and the osteoclasts, which are the cells that help break up and break down bone. But the ones are the blasts, the others are clasts, are all underpinned by cannabinoid signaling.
Wow.
So osteoclasts can basically be recruited by cannabinoids. And again, those are the things that are going to help build up your bone and your teeth structure that are going to, make sure that you have teeth throughout all your living years. You need teeth to eat. You need to eat to stay alive.
So. Jesse, any thoughts on this?
I mean, this is just obviously a completely BS story.
I know.
And quote unquote study. We've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies on this show that completely contradict what it's trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. This whole idea of CUD and cannabis disorder, even if you did try to agree with it and say, okay, well, maybe somebody cannabis becomes like quote unquote addicted to it to the point of self-destruction and harming them on their own life, which I don't think is true. I think that there's associations happening where there's other things going on in their life that are causing destruction, and they happen to use cannabis.
Yeah, it's usually other drugs.
Yeah, it's or it's just life things. You know, they have severe trauma in their life or something, and they are trying to use cannabis to self-medicate, and then there's this correlation of like, well, it's the self-medication that's causing all the problems. No, not necessarily, and there's no data to really prove that. These are just stories, and it's clear that there are powers at work that want to destroy the story of cannabis and what it does for people, and these stories are very rare. Conflicting stories. Every day we have so many studies coming out that are pro-cannabis.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. Dr. Mark, any final words on this?
No, I think that we've talked this subject, cannabis use disorder, to death, but let's come up with,
it'll keep coming up, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, don't worry.
Well, let's
keep
come
saying
up with,
it.
I'm sure it'll be back next week.
Causation, not correlation, right?
That's right.
Kevin Sabet's going nowhere, bud.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution Tested and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And Anna and Elliot, hope you have a fantastic time in Alaska. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, and thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. Thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse, and thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.